ज्यादा बताएंगे, डिटेल में बताएंगे कि किस तरीके से फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट होना चाहिए, लीगल इश्यूज पे हम कहाँ और कैसे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं। मिस्टर सोलंकी को इनवाइट करने के लिए मैं आमंत्रित करती हूँ अपनी दोस्त समीक्षा सांचवान को। समीक्षा।
Yeah, thank you, Parul. Good evening, parents, and welcome in today's session. And it was committed last time only that we will get our expert on legal advices for the special needs parents. So we are here. We have this, our special expert on state management and planning. And just before starting, I would like to say that few things in our life only take our attention or concern when we get stuck in such a situation. So legal matters are one of those, I guess. So financial matter, we discussed this in last year in month of February somewhere, and today again we are talking. That time it was financial management, and today again we are talking about legal issues. And this session can be an awakening moment for the new parents, and it can also be a reminder to those who were there with us in the last time and session, and that let's get started and just get a reminder. So welcome, Jitendra sir. It is very nice to have you, and it is really so nice of you to immediately say yes when in the last session we said we will be needing you again, and you are here. Thank you so much for that. And today, as you have been already advising, guiding parents with a special needs child, from your experience, we want to know today that what all and how a parent should do right from the time they receive the diagnosis of the child. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samiksha, and thank you, DFSI. I have been very vocal, on these aspects that whatever you plan for the child and whatever you plan for yourself, everything will be a toss if the financial and legal aspects are not addressed, right? Because within your lifetime you can manage somehow, but after your lifetime it totally depends on what legacy you leave behind. Okay, that is what will be available to anybody whosoever looks after your child. Okay, so it's very important to understand this. And I have been interacting, planning for quite a lot of families where parents have, reached almost the stage of retirement now. Okay, so now obviously, with a child of almost an adult, 20, 22, 25 age, and the concern is coming up, what after us? But in my view, this concern, this planning should start, the moment diagnosis happens. Okay, because to build a financial, it takes time, right? We are not, we all of us, are will not going to have, some legacy coming to us, and suddenly, we will have something for the children. So it's very important that planning should start early. I have already given sessions before how you should go about, planning and what all it should cover. So I think parents should take a note from that. And early planning is required, because when you reach a stage when you will finally be thinking about your child, okay, you would be not thinking about your child alone, you would be thinking about yourself and about the child. Now when it comes to two generations, see, for when you have to plan for one generation, it's already, a task for you, arranging those financials. But when you have to plan for two generations, then obviously the needs are quite high. And when you have to plan, the two generations are involved, because the needs are higher, you need time to, to let your money grow. Then only you can have the, money available. So on the financial part, the financial planning is important. In today discussion, I'm not going to go deep into financial, because that itself a separate session, I have done before. But the main thing is that the moment, the child is diagnosed, I do understand emotionally it's very difficult till the child reaches 10, 12 years of age. Parents get very busy, on therapies, on understanding what's going to happen in the future. But one element they should always start, and that's the saving part. Okay, whatever it happens, you should always start saving. Whatever you can save, you should start saving for your child, the way we say for a child education, marriage, similarly, and that starts right at the beginning. I think it should also start at the beginning. Then you can plan whenever you reach to a stage where the saving should start early. So that saving is there one. Okay, I'm talking about for younger parents, who has recently, suppose, it's been 2 3 years when the child is diagnosed. So one is the saving should start, right? The legal aspect is not going to be so much on their mind at this, always prepare for, and well, that's the future aspect which are going to come up later. What will happen after us, where will the child live? When the child is minor, it's easy to decide on the residential living, where the child will live. The difficult part is when the child is an adult, then it's difficult to decide where the child is going to live. you know so on that aspect, and that's where the thinking comes later in the part. The thinking comes when the child is actually an adult. Then you, as a parent, you come to know, oh, I have to decide now, because he's already an adult and you have to look after the residential aspect. But when the child is young, the planning should start, the saving should start, the investment should start. That's the only way you will accumulate money. There is no other way you can think of. And the third is, on the legal front, you should always have a will ready, right? You should always have ready a will. Why I'm saying so? In the last 2 3 years, in the pandemic, we have seen so many situations where the will was never written, and suddenly the things are going for a toss. Nobody knows what's going to happen. uh, who is going to own the assets, who is going to manage the child affairs. So all that is, I would say, the confusion state is always there. So to avoid that, a will should always be written even by the younger parents. So as a younger parent, that much limited part of planning all young parents should do. Then when you comes to an age where you start thinking, when the child is an adult, then we have already discussed in the last session, so many sessions, that there's so many legal aspects to address, and those have to be looked after. Now coming to an assisted living or a residential living. Okay, so I have talked in my last discussion also, that residential living is not only about that leaving your child there and the child is going to live. As a parent, you have to think about how the finances are going to be arranged, how, from where you will arrange the finances. Okay, that when the child is going to shift to any kind of residential living, be it assisted, be it group homes, or be it any kind of living you do, where would the finances would be arranged from? Do you have enough of money for that? If not, then how you can arrange that money? Second, how you going to provide that funding? Are you going to give money lump sum to anybody? Are you going to leave money behind for somebody to manage it? Or are you going to create a trust which will manage the financial affairs? Right, so who is going to manage it? Where will the money be? Will the money be in the name of the child? Will the money be in the trust? Will the money be with anybody else? And how would the funding happen? Is it going to happen a monthly? Are you going to give a lump sum to residential living as a security? Are you going to provide a monthly way out of expenses? How you're going to provide for emergencies? So all these are a thinking aspect when you start thinking about the residential living for your child, especially after your lifetime. The next element is then how you ensure that the funding keeps happening even after your lifetime, right? And see, all good, everything happens fine, it's a dream of every parent. But whatever residential living is you choose for your child, that may not work in the longer term. Okay, then what happens, where the child is going to be shifted, if and who is going to decide that where the child has to be shifted, right? And if the child has to be shifted, how the financials are going to be shifted to another, maybe an organization. So I'm talking on all those aspects which you have to think about, and the legal framework should address these. Whether you create a trust, whether you leave it to a legal guardian, whether you leave it to any other family member, these aspects has to be addressed today. Okay, and you should be prepared for tomorrow. You can't leave it to the legal guardian, to decide on these matters, because certain things you as a parent can only decide. A legal guardian cannot decide. He can decide only what you will provide to him. So everything a parent has to decide. And when you are thinking on these aspects, especially when it comes to finally deciding the residential living, okay, then it's not only about residential living. You have to look at the framework. The residential living where he is going to live also has to have its own security, right? Whatever kind of a setup it is, right? How the setup is going to work in the longer run, how they are going to secure that the funding keeps coming, to them. Second, as a parent, how do you ensure the enough funding is available? First of all, enough funding is available. You have the right amount of assets, you have the right amount of money built up, that even something happens to you tomorrow, the fund is enough to take care for the child. Second, what is the source or of that funding to that residential care, which I've talked about recently. And something happens, I was talking, as I was saying about inadaptability, the child is not adapting to that situation, he has to be shifted to somewhere else, maybe to his own residential house. How all that things is going to be managed, both personally and financially? Who is going to manage that? If you create a trust, it can be a workable solution. But even when you have created a trust, all stakeholders, see, there are stakeholders, there are legal guardian, there is going to be a residential living, there is going to be a support group, there is going to be a private trust. All of these have to be in sync with each other. You cannot have these in isolation with each other, right? Our trust should be in conversation with legal guardian. Both of them should be in conversation with the residential care. For any other support group should be conversation with all of these, and everybody should know, with whatever life stage of child is, everybody should have enough information that they are knowing that where the situation stands today. Then only tomorrow the decision making can be efficient. It shouldn't happen that legal guardian, suppose for example, demand some money from the trust, and the trust doesn't know about it, right? They are not knowing about the past, what happens with the care of the child. So there is always going to be question mark, and then long discussion happens. So to avoid that, it's important that all of these is in sync with each other. And that's where our organization always vocal about that: create an ecosystem. Don't just create these legal documents and have a piece of paper. Create an ecosystem. This ecosystem is what will provide a security to your child care.
जी जितेंद्र जी, आपने विल की बात की है। विल में क्या एक चीज होनी चाहिए? फाइनेंशियल्स का चलिए ठीक है, हमें करना चाहिए, और क्या क्या पॉइंट्स होने चाहिए जो पेरेंट्स को, आपने कहा यंग पेरेंट्स को भी लिख देने चाहिए एटलीस्ट?
या सो एक विल में सबसे पहले तो आपको ये लिखना होता है कि आपके चाइल्ड की कंडीशन क्या है। ओके, वो डिसेबिलिटी क्लियरली डिफाइन होनी चाहिए, और ये डिफाइन होना चाहिए कि उसकी क्या लिमिटेशंस है। सेकंड, लीगल गार्डियन कौन होगा आपके बाद जो चाइल्ड का केयर देगा, ये विल में अपॉइंट होना चाहिए। अगर विल में अपॉइंट नहीं होगा तो फिर ये किसी लीगल प्रोसेस के थ्रू जाएगा, विच मे बी कम्बरसम और विच मे बी लेंदी इनफ। ओके, सो विल में लीगल गार्डियन अपॉइंट होना चाहिए। विल में आपके एसेट्स कैसे किसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होंगे ये क्लियरली मेंशन होना चाहिए, राइट? फॉर एग्जांपल, आपके पास एक प्रॉपर्टी है, अब वो प्रॉपर्टी, चाइल्ड अगर अकेला चाइल्ड है तो लार्जली वो प्रॉपर्टी चाइल्ड को जाएगी, बट अगर सिबलिंग है तो वो किस चाइल्ड को जाएगी, राइट? तो वो क्लियरली, तो एसेट्स किसको कैसे जाएंगे वो क्लियरली मेंशन होना चाहिए। और आपके चाइल्ड के लिए जो आप एसेट्स एलोकेट कर रहे हैं उनको कौन मैनेज करेगा? ओके, आर दे गोइंग टू गो टू अ ट्रस्ट और इट विल बी लेफ्ट टू द लीगल गार्डियन, ये क्लियरली मेंशन होना चाहिए। अगर आप ट्रस्ट नहीं बनाते हैं और लीगल गार्डियन पे छोड़ते हैं तो कुछ ना कुछ आपको डायरेक्शन देनी चाहिए कि किस तरीके से ये मैनेज किए जाएंगे, राइट? लास्टली, विल के अंदर जो जब आपने लीगल गार्डियन अपॉइंट किया तो एक ऑल्टरनेट हमेशा देखें, राइट? क्योंकि जो लीगल गार्डियन आपने अपॉइंट किया वो कल को लास्टली एक एग्जीक्यूटर, एग्जीक्यूटर वो इंडिविजुअल होता है.
Sir, we are losing on important points. Your voice is breaking.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying 3-4 points. Will में first is the first part is mentioning about your child disability, his limitations. Second is appointing the legal guardian who is going to manage his affairs, personal or financial, whichever way you choose. Third is how the assets will be distributed and to whom, right? So if suppose there are two children, you want specific asset to go to one child, another asset to go to other child, it should be clearly mentioned. Fourth, if you disinherit anybody in your will, right, if you say any of your child will not inherit any assets, you should mention it clearly with specific reasons why you are saying so. Okay, so that there is no dispute tomorrow, right? The reasons should be clearly written. And fourth, if you are creating a trust, today, fine. If you're not, you can create a trust in the will also, so that when the will gets executed, the assets for your special need child, first the trust will be formed and then the asset will be transferred to the trust. Okay, so you can create a trust in the will also. Lastly, you appoint an executor. Now, executor is a person who will look after the entire process of all the will execution, right? So an executor is an important person, so you should appoint an executor in your will, right? It can be a family member, it can be friend, it can be a professional, it can be anybody, right? So but appoint an executor in your will. So these are 3-4 points when a parent's writing a will should remember.
जितेंद्र जी, इसमें जो आपने बताया है कि एसेट्स को क्लियर होना चाहिए कि क्या किसको चाहेगा, तो क्या एक डिसेबल पर्सन का पूरा अधिकार होता है इस तरह की चीजों पे बराबर बराबर का? जैसे कोई फैमिली बिजनेस है तो क्या उनको वो रहता है कि हाँ उनको जाना चाहिए?
देखिए, डिसेबल्ड है, नॉन डिसेबल्ड है, अगर वो लीगल हायर है उसका पूरा अधिकार है.
अच्छा.
It's not about the situation of that person. It's about whether he is a legal hire or not. If he is one of the legal hires, he has full right of his share, be it business, be it specific assets.
जी. जितेंद्र जी, विल बनाना, ट्रस्ट बनाना या किसी और तरह का फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट जो आपने बताए 2-3 पॉइंट, और वो करना और एक एग्जीक्यूटर को रखना, इस सब में कितना खर्चा लगभग हो जाता है?
देखिए, विल ड्राफ्टिंग जैसे हम लोग करते हैं, हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन करती है, तो हम 7,500 में एक विल ड्राफ्ट कर देते हैं एक पेरेंट की, राइट? तो वो ड्राफ्टिंग का एक्सपेंस हो गया. इसके अलावा अगर आप रजिस्ट्रेशन करने जाते हैं तो अनदर 3,000 यू कैन टेक. तो लार्जली 10,000 में आपका विल ड्राफ्ट होकर रजिस्टर भी हो जाता है.
जी. और ये जो एग्जीक्यूटर को रखा जाता है वो भी कोई फैमिली मेंबर ही हो सकता है, तो वो तो सिर्फ उसमें नाम लेने वाली,
वो चूज कर सकते हैं. प्रोफेशनल होगा तो फीस लेगा, नहीं होगा तो फैमिली मेंबर है तो उसमें फीस का इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं आता है, जनरली सिर्फ एक्सपेंसेस का आता है.
जितेंद्र जी, आगे बढ़ने से पहले एक सवाल और मैं पूछना चाह रही हूँ, क्योंकि जैसे आप बता रहे हैं, कुछ लोगों को, मेरे जैसे लोगों को ये सब चीजें थोड़ा मुश्किल लगती है कि किस तरीके से कहाँ कांटेक्ट किया जाए. क्या अगर हम आपसे कांटेक्ट करें तो क्या आप हमारी इसमें हेल्प कर सकते हैं? आपकी जी, आप मेरे बच्चे का बिल बनवा दीजिए और ट्रस्ट बनवा दीजिए.
जी, तो मैं बता देता हूँ, हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है स्पेशल नीड एस्टेट प्लानर्स प्राइवेट लिमिटेड. ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सिर्फ लीगल एस्पेक्ट्स पे काम करती है और केवल स्पेशल चिल्ड्रन फैमिलीज के लिए. इसमें हम फैमिलीज के लिए विल ड्राफ्ट करके देते हैं, प्राइवेट ट्रस्ट हम ड्राफ्टिंग करते हैं. इसके अलावा हम प्राइवेट ट्रस्ट को मैनेज भी करते हैं. तो स्पेशल चिल्ड्रन फैमिलीज जिनको पता नहीं है प्राइवेट ट्रस्ट कैसे मैनेज होता है, उनको हम एडवाइजरी सर्विसेज भी देते हैं अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के थ्रू. तो हम पेरेंट्स के बिहाफ पे हम उस पूरे ट्रस्ट को मैनेज कर सकते हैं. इसके साथ साथ जो एक एंड सर्विसेज हम लोग देते हैं वो ये कि हम ट्रस्ट के अंदर कॉर्पोरेट ट्रस्टी भी बन सकते हैं, हम वन ऑफ द ट्रस्टी भी बन सकते हैं, हम एग्जीक्यूटर भी बन सकते हैं, हम विल एग्जीक्यूशन भी करते हैं. तो लार्जली अगर मोटा मैं कहूँ, अगर आपको एस्टेट प्लानिंग से रिलेटेड कोई भी सर्विसेज चाहिए किसी भी एंड पे, तो एंड टू एंड हम पूरा सॉल्यूशन देते हैं अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के थ्रू.
अरे बहुत बहुत अच्छी बात है ये.
जितेंद्र सर, पारुल,
जी समीक्षा.
Jitendra sir, understood. There are few steps you've told that these have to be done within the lifetime of the parent, and as early you started, will like time is money, and time can multiply money also. So that is a good advice. And but as a parent who has zero knowledge on it, I want to know that we are talking about will drafting, we are talking about trust making, we are talking about executor appointing, management committee, and all of it. So I am getting more humans involved in the financial management of my child. Suppose I'm not there. The first thing that I am going to take or decide on, along with my advisor, I'm going to decide on taking on, decision for the future decisions for my child's life, or whatever needs arises in future, which I'm not aware today that how it is going to manifest. Uh, uh, how practical it is to do it on anticipation, like this in this manner can go, and because things are going haywire, be it economy, be it social norms, be it relationships, things are going up and down. They are not very smooth. A person who is very positive today can be very negative in coming times. So how I should prepare myself for that, like how to ensure that legal guardian or whosoever I make a part of this huge decision for my child, going to be loyal or true to the responsibility I'm trying to bestow upon the person. Can we
Yeah.
can we this aspect also?
Yes. So see, as far as individual loyalty is concerned, okay, now, and if whenever you appoint an individual for your child future, right, it's very difficult to decide that in future what is going to happen, because once you have given matters to an individual, you can impose some conditions, but more than that, it will be left to the individual to really manage things. Okay, because and he's as individual as you are, right?
Yeah.
So when you leave everything to a legal guardian, this question will always arises, and parents do ask this question, that how I trust that legal guardian. Now trusting an individual is the way in your practical life you trust an individual, it is to that limited extent. You cannot do anything legally to enforce him to do something in a certain manner. Now, as an individual legal guardian, when he is appointed as legal guardian, there is a monitoring authority like National Trust, right? So which takes yearly details of the assets in the name of the child, what is happening to those assets. They can impose question to the legal guardian, they can remove the legal guardian. So that layer of security is available, and that one layer of security is there, that every legal guardian has to report yearly to the National Trust all the assets in the name of the child. Okay, and so one is that. Beyond that, it's very difficult to really think what kind of a security you can have when you are appointing an individual. The alternative to that is that you limit the role of a legal guardian. Now, when you appoint him as an individual, he is managing both personal and financial affairs, right? So how do I limit the role? That I move the financial affairs to an entity like a private trust. Now, private trust is an entity. Nobody owns this asset apart from the child, right? So, an entity. So, just to understand in a layman language, you are making an arrangement as a parent that these are the assets for my child. These assets will be managed by these people. They are not going to own the asset. The child is going to own the asset, but these will be managed by these people within the guidelines I have set up in the document. Beyond that, they cannot do anything. Okay. Now when you move financials to an entity like a trust, now there are two people involved. One is a private trust who is managing the financial, one is the legal guardian who is behind the financial. Okay, so then you are able to provide a layer of security for your child affairs, which concern all parents have. And a private trust is not managed by an individual, it is managed by minimum two people. They can be 3 or 5 people, and decision making happens like it happens in a company, that a board of directors make all the decisions, and they have to be jointly making a decision. They have to be in sync with each other. So when you create a corporate like a structure, so the decision making is more efficient and they are managing the financial. So with this alternative, you are able to provide that layer of security.
Yes, sir.
But with an individual, that question will always remain. Okay, and that has got its limitations.
Yeah, Jiten sir, we are losing your voice time and again. I don't know why.
End of
Sir, your voice is not very clear.
the day, he or she is an individual.
Sir, muffled voice we can hear. So you need to repeat few of the points you mentioned.
And also, let me.
No, Jiten sir, your voice is not very clear. It has been muffled. Parul, can you hear him? No.
जी नहीं, मैं भी नहीं सुन पा रही
No,
हूँ.
now he's gone, but I
Yeah.
think his
Connection
bandwidth is low,
is-
so probably because of that he is breaking. I think he'll come in again. I don't know. I probably.
समीक्षा, रेखा माँ हमारे
You
साथ
are not audible at all. And
Yeah,
Can you hear me, Sammy?
जी,
Can you hear me?
जी
Yes,
रेखा
Rekha
माँ,
ma'am, we
आपसे
can hear
जानना
you.
चाहते हैं जितेंद्र जी जो हमें बता रहे हैं उस बारे में.
Yeah. I mean, this is the question that has been in our minds from the time we have opened up the discussion on whether we should have a trust fund, a foundation. People have been calling me. So I think there are a lot of legal issues in this, which that day when Annapurni was saying that we give money to a particular, the residential or whatever it is, फिर वो वापस कैसे आता है हमको? So my point is, when I asked Mr. Solanki, there was a very big doubt because there is no legal transaction that makes them imperative that they have to give back our monies. So please understand, when you're investing your money also, where are you investing it? How are you investing it? Is it for beneficial for our children is very important, because we are not there to supervise, and we don't know about the siblings. So we have to make a criteria where the federation takes charge. And I think we have to go deeper and deeper into this, Parul and Sammy, where we are able to understand the implications of our actions. Because giving money is very easy. वो पैसा हमारे बच्चे को जा रहा है नहीं जा रहा है कैसे मालूम है आपको?
वो सबसे बड़ी बात है
ना? नहीं, trust is one thing. What Mr. Solanki is saying is perfect. आप उनको trust करो, but the word trust is a very difficult word. नहीं तो हम अपने family members को ही दे देते ना. My point is, I trust my family members more than I trust a builder or a person who's investing in his building. I don't know how you think of it, but I would rather bring my family close together, explain the situation. Jaisa bhi hai, at least a child knows my family. And I don't want somebody else controlling her or telling her what she should do with her funds. So she likes to travel, she likes to go out. So ye sara restriction bhi ho jayega na? I don't know. I mean, I'm asking you guys, so each of you give us your ideas.
I'll explain that, ma'am. I'll explain that.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll explain that. See, what happens is I'm talking about, an individual and a entity, right?
Okay.
When you are creating an entity like a private trust, your family members are managing it. Okay. Your family members are the trustees, they are managing it. It's just that the money is not with anyone. The money is there only for the child. It can be utilized only for the child. No individual has control on that money. It's a private trust has that control. Okay. And how these family members are going to manage that money, you have clearly written down in the trust deed document. Now they cannot manage it beyond that. You have clearly written down where it should be invested. You have clearly written down how it should meet the expenses. You have clearly written down how it should meet the emergency situation, and you have clearly written down that after your child lifetime where the money should go. Now when you write down this clearly in a private trust, your family members, and you can have a layer of security that your family members can have other people also involved in the trust, and when they manage the affairs, they have to work only for the child benefit. because the trust is created only for the child benefit. It doesn't have any other purpose.
So I have one doubt, Mr. Solanki. Now
Yes.
you are saying family members.
Yeah.
In the family members, is it necessary to have one legal person?
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I mean, my point is, I have written down in my that trust thing that the family members must make sure that she is comfortable in every which way. So suppose there are 5 members in that trust. This particular decision is made by all 5.
Okay, so when you create the trust deed, you actually create the provision of decision making also. You will create a provision that the decision will be made as per majority. That if there are 5 people, when 3 will agree to a decision, that decision will hold. So you create, so minutely you create when they should conduct a meeting, when what record they should maintain, how decisions should be made, what decisions will not hold, will not prevail. You minutely create all those provisions. And when you written down that
1 minute, Solanki sir.
Yeah.
All this is very nice on paper. Okay.
Yeah.
I am having families that are calling me up and saying, where is the guarantee that these 5 members will not gang up and leave my child alone?
Okay, I'll answer that question. Once when I say 5 people, okay, now in a private trust, how we ensure that these 5 people should not gang up? You are appointing the trustees. Okay, trustees are managing the private trust affairs. It's not necessary that you have to appoint trustees only with the family members. I appoint 1 family member, 2 family member. I bring in 1 professional. I bring in 3rd person who is not a family member but a friend. Now, when you create these people who are not, not all of them are family member, not all of them are your friend, and it might happen that one of them might not be related to you at all. Now, when you have these people involved managing the affairs, the situation you are talking about becomes a very rare situation. They will all gang up and utilize the funds. Okay, one is that. Second, when a private trust does not function, right, anybody who is concerned with your child care, even the residential care, can always go to court and have a complaint against private trust. But largely it's a layer of security of of the trustees you create, which ensures that the situation you are talking about reduces to a minimum. Yes, on paper there is no guarantee that this thing cannot happen, but you create, when you are creating the trust deed, the trust deed, the provision you make, that brings that layer of security to the private trust. Okay, now I just give you an example how we have involved even family members who are abroad, right? So we have created a private trust in India. We have appointed trustees. Now there are 2 family members, 1 professional trustee, and 1 is a friend, not a family member. Now a family wanted somebody who is residing abroad, a very close person with the child. They wanted him to be involved in the private trust affairs. So we made him a protector in the private trust, not as a trustee, and he has his some powers in the private trust for appointing trustees or removing trustees, and he can oversee the trust affairs. Now this is a private trust. See, one layer of security is also that you have a private trust, still you have to appoint a legal guardian, because a private trust can decide on financial affairs. He cannot decide on personal affairs. For personal affairs, you will need a legal guardian. So 1 person you are going to appoint as a legal guardian. Now you have 2 entities available. So, and a legal guardian can always, impose a question to private trust why it is something is not happening. Okay. So these are the layer of securities you create in the legal language. I'm talking about that these are the layer of securities you create.
Another question. Can we have, how many members can there be on this trust?
Okay, on a private trust, minimum 2, maximum there is no limit.
Oh, so there can be more than 5 or 6?
Yes, they can be.
Okay, that was my concern, because if there's a limit, then you don't know, because I have appointed my immediate family on the top. Below that, we have a legal professional who is a member of the trust. Then you have a medical person from abroad who looks after her interests. and any medical issue, he will be asked to come. So I have protected her in various ways, like even social association, her good friends, all that we have put. So we have got something like 12 to 14 people.
I give you another layer of security. So
Tell me.
now this private trust is managing the funds. Now, wherever the child resides, the residential living, you can always involve the residential living also as one of the trustees.
No, I mean, I'm talking about the child being, more secure in the home atmosphere.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Got it.
Okay, because this residential care thing is something which is quite frightening in India.
I do agree. I do agree. It's
I'm
not.
glad you agree, because I am trying to get my entire Humsafar family to think twice about residential care.
But I am looking, all these residential care completely from the professional point of view. Okay. And I see a lot of, gaps in these today. And that's what, make me think that whether, and it's being, booming up like any other, like, yesterday educational system, educational institution boomed up. Suddenly all residential cares are coming up without any proper legal framework today. Okay.
Exactly.
They are,
exactly.
I mean, nobody can guarantee whether they will, be there for next 40 years or not. So how will the child reside?
I have so many questions in my head, which is asked every 5 minutes. I get a question from a parent. So the other thing is, suppose we make a group home of just 5 members. And then we have all the other trusts here for all individually for these 5. Is it possible, or all 5 ka ek hi trust hoga? Nahi na?
Nahi. If you have more than one beneficiary, and if your beneficiary is not your blood relative, that become a public trust. It's not a private family trust.
It won't be a private. Okay.
No,
but
no.
if they are staying together, suppose I have 4 people staying together, they can individually create a trust. They can. Can they create a trust for their own child?
Trust, every individual family can create a separate trust for their child.
Okay.
So
and Mr. Solanki, do you recommend that every family to secure that their child is a beneficiary after them, create the trust fund now?
Yes, I would advise all families to create a trust now, have that legal framework ready. It's not necessary that you have to fund it now. You can fund it with multiple means, even within your lifetime or through will, but have it ready today, because if you leave it to the will, and ma'am, we have seen in Hindi cinemas, कि will कहाँ तक dispute में जाती है, तो कल को अगर वो dispute में चली गई, तो trust create कौन करेगा?
So I have had a case where a family has actually, after the parents' demise, they have certified this particular individual as having mental health issues.
Oh.
So mental illness, if it comes up as an issue, you can quietly hardpofy the whole thing.
Yes.
I want you to mention that, because the parents are not taking the seriousness. Because see, when we take the certificate of a disability certificate, that our families are misconstruing.
Ma, you got mute. Ma, unmute yourself. Last portion we missed.
No, the families are misconstruing. You know what happens? The family is not able to understand that our disability certificate is a very, very, very sharp and very strong thing that can go against our children. Because the word disability in India can be, changed to suit your needs. And I have had that 40 years ago. I have seen it happening in families. जहाँ पे the people how they use the word pagal.
बिल्कुल बहुत आसानी से इसे mental illness बदला जाता है.
I tell you, Mr. Solanki, I was in Chandigarh, and one family, they stood up and said, even today, ma, they call my child pagal. So things have not really altered to that extent.
I do agree, and it's not going to change. Let's accept the fact that it's not going to change, so fast that suddenly everybody is literate, toward disability. It's not going to happen. So
Agree with you, but
we as a parents have to make it.
I can sleep comfortably thinking that I did what I had to do.
Yes.
रेखा माँ, कुछ ना होने से कुछ होना अच्छा होता है। पिछली बार भी जब मिस्टर सोलंकी आए थे तो ये चीजें मुझे भी वो किया था, और उसके बाद से मैंने भी अभी तक कुछ नहीं किया। क्या हम DSFI और मिस्टर सोलंकी के साथ मिलकर कुछ ऐसा कर सकते हैं जिससे पेरेंट्स की हेल्प कर सकें, जो चाहते हैं कि विल हो जाए और बहुत ज्यादा भाग दौड़ और लीगल उसको नहीं जानते हैं, तो क्या एक रास्ता हम ऐसा निकाल सकते हैं?
100%.
जैसा
Hello, Parul. Mr. Solanki has offered his services to us. He himself said, I will talk about it. It was not that we were asking him to come. He said, I want to be there because he's trying to help our parents. If the parents are smart, what is the age limit? Is there any age limit when I can start this? Can I start the trust at 15?
No, you have to be a major. You have to be a major. Okay, you have to be a major. No, see, point is you are asking from the point of view of your child.
Yes.
Even you can create a trust when the child is 1 year of age.
Wow. So I think we spread this in DSFI. If Brinda is there, Brinda.
Yes, ma'am.
So we start working double time to ensure that our parents understand that we are not trying to take their money. Okay, we're not interested. If you come and Mr. Solanki is there in Raipur, sit down, discuss, get your facts clear.
Bilkul.
Okay.
So Jitendra sir will come to Raipur, ma'am, I'm sure.
Yeah,
yes,
he's coming. He's already.
I'll be there. I'm committing. I'll be there.
No, Mr. Solanki is sitting there at one of the biggest desks, and every parent is sitting next to him. Okay.
बिल्कुल.
We have to give appointments.
कम से कम बिल तो तैयार हो जाए एक बार.
Parul, sir, I think you'll be making Parul's will there itself.
मेरा तो होगा, मेरे को तो करना है, मुझे तो करना है.
You need to come there with all your team members, I guess, because the work is going to increase multifolds after Raipur or from Raipur right from the first day, I guess.
So हम क्या करेंगे? Let me see, हम क्या करेंगे? Okay, let DFSI and our organization, we will have a tie-up. Okay, we will see in that how best we can help, because will वगैरह क्रिएट करना हाथ के हाथ नहीं होता है, उसमें टाइम लगता है, डिस्कशन होगा पेरेंट के साथ, वो क्या चाहते हैं वो मुझे अंडरस्टैंड करना है, तो वो इंडिविजुअली देखना पड़ेगा. We will have a tie-up. I'll bring out something really good for DFSI, so that हम एक लेंथ में, सपोज फॉर एग्जांपल हम ट्रस्ट पे अभी नहीं जाते, हम सिर्फ विल के लिए करते हैं. ओके, कि पहले हर फैमिली की विल तो रेडी हो जाए, ट्रस्ट तो बाद में बनेगा, पहले विल तो रेडी हो जाए.
विल तो बनाए, हाँ.
तो हम
and sir, more important, I would like you to discuss that you don't have to necessarily put money. Wait, there's no hurry. So create a will where you can start, thinking practically. So I think this is very, very important, and I thank you so much, because coming from your background, this is one area where we are. And sir, I think the more important thing is to remember that persons with Down syndrome have got serious medical issues.
I do agree.
So the money is actually kept apart seriously for the medical aspect.
Yes.
समीक्षा, अब आज के सेशन के सवाल हम ले लेते हैं, ताकि जो भी हमारा डिस्कशन होगा जितेंद्र जी के साथ में हम अपने पेरेंट्स को इन्फॉर्म कर देंगे.
Bhavna ma'am has raised her hand. If you
we have Bhavna ma'am raising virtually and physically both the hands. Yes, Bhavna ma'am, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Solanki, we are so grateful to you to come here and clarify the thing. Which I've been actually trying to get my will made, frankly telling you, and for years, and it has not worked out, as Parul said, and not because I don't want to or I don't have time to, I'm just not getting the right guidance. And lately, I just finalized, okay, now high time, I'm going to go through this and finalize it. Then I realized the lawyer told me that it has to be registered in your own city. Is that right? So then how will you help us in all over India? Because you said you will help us, and I just decided okay, I'm coming to you and getting my will made now.
Okay, मैं उसके लिए भी क्लेरिफिकेशन कर देता हूँ. पहली बात, लॉ के अंदर विल रजिस्ट्रेशन मैंडेटरी नहीं है. आपने प्लेन पेपर पे विल लिखा हुआ है, विटनेस के साइन है, दैट इज अ लीगली एक्सेप्टेड विल इन इंडिया.
But Mr. Solanki, I came to know since 2014 it is not legal. If it is not registered, it will not be honored.
कौन सी स्टेट है आपकी, कौन सी स्टेट है?
उत्तर प्रदेश.
ऐसा कहीं नहीं है मैम, अगर किसी ने बताया है गलत बताया है.
दिल्ली के लॉयर ने भी बोला, नोएडा के लॉयर ने भी बोला और लखनऊ के लॉयर ने भी बोला.
मैं क्लेरिफिकेशन करता हूँ उसका. मैंडेटरी अभी भी नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम कहाँ आ रहा है कि अनरजिस्टर्ड विल को अगर प्लेन पेपर पे लिखा हुआ है तो आप अगर आप किसी प्रॉपर्टी डिपार्टमेंट के पास लेके जाते हैं और उनसे बोलते हैं कि हमारी प्रॉपर्टी हमारे नाम पे ट्रांसफर कर दो, दे आर आस्किंग यू टू गेट अ प्रोबेट. ओके, एक प्रोबेट प्रोसेस होता है. प्रोबेट के लिए वो लोग कर रहे हैं. प्रोबेट का मतलब है कि वो और 6 महीने 1 साल के लिए कोर्ट में चली जाती है.
They explain कि सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट लेना पड़ेगा and then unless it is registered.
विल में जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट के लिए.
No,
और अगर
for the assets transfer you said.
नहीं, मैं बता देता हूँ. वो अगर एक बार कोर्ट में चली गई तो सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगी. कोर्ट सर्टिफाई कर देता है विल को. ठीक है, प्रोबेट में.
That is why registration is important.
इसलिए अब रजिस्ट्रेशन मैंडेटरी नहीं भी है तो भी हो गया है, बिकॉज इंस्टीट्यूशन जो है वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं प्लेन पेपर पे लिखी हुई विल को, अनरजिस्टर्ड विल को. अब मैं कैसे हेल्प कर सकता हूँ? देखिए, विल का जो रजिस्ट्रेशन होता है, आप जो प्रॉपर्टी रजिस्टर कराते हैं ऐसे ही विल का रजिस्टर होता है. तो जो भी रजिस्ट्रेशन सब रजिस्ट्रार ऑफिस है वहां पे अगर आप किसी से भी रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए बोलेंगे तो वो रजिस्टर आपकी हेल्प कर देगा. दे विल चार्ज सम 2500 रुपीज. तो रजिस्ट्रेशन इज नॉट अ ह्यूमंगस टास्क, इट कैन हैपन इजीली. ओके, मेन पार्ट इज ड्राफ्टिंग. वो
ड्राफ्टिंग द विल, एग्जैक्टली.
वी विल हेल्प यू आउट इन द ड्राफ्टिंग. अगर दिल्ली एनसीआर में है तो हम लोग हेल्प आउट कर देते हैं रजिस्ट्रेशन में.
आई मीन लखनऊ
दो वी से की रजिस्ट्रेशन में हमारी हेल्प मत लो, बिकॉज हमारे लिए कॉस्ट ज्यादा हो जाता है. अगर आप ऐसे ही जाओगे और सब रजिस्ट्रार ऑफिस में किसी से भी हेल्प मांगोगे रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए, जो प्रॉपर्टी रजिस्टर करता है, तो आराम से हो जाएगा. आज तक सभी पेरेंट्स ने ऐसी कराई है और अभी हो भी गई है उनकी रजिस्टर.
ओके, सो बेसिकली वी गेट इट ड्राफ्टेड फ्रॉम यू, मतलब ऑल पॉइंट्स क्लियर एंड केयरफुली रिटन.
यस,
ओके, दैट विल बी रियली नाइस. लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू सीइंग यू इन रायपुर.
श्योर.
Bhavna, I can be on your one of the persons on your will, okay?
Sure, ma'am.
So nice of you. Thank you for the offer. And the other thing, Mr. Solanki, I shouldn't be asking here, but because it can help others also. I have never got trust, and like Rekha ma'am says, I also trust my other son rather than having a trust. So is that right or wrong? I entirely trust my son. I can leave everything to him, that he will look after my special son. But I don't know, and I've not been able to decide that I should have a trust.
Okay, I am answering that question. Okay, see, it's neither right nor wrong. Fine, जहाँ पे sibling है, parent do actually trust sibling, but that is perfectly fine. Trust का help कहाँ पे होता है? एक इंडिविजुअल का लिमिटेशंस है.
That I heard of it. Yeah.
सेकंड क्वेश्चन ये है, उस इंडिविजुअल को कुछ हो गया, देन हु विल मैनेज इट? एक प्राइवेट ट्रस्ट एंटिटी जब तक रन करेगी जब तक आपका चाइल्ड अलाइव है. ओके, ट्रस्टीज बदलते रहेंगे बट एंटिटी रन करेगी, वो मैनेज होता रहेगा. बट एक इंडिविजुअल की लिमिटेशन उसकी डेथ तक होती है. अगर वो नहीं है देन व्हाट? तो क्या आप लेयर ऑफ पीपल क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, विच इज प्रैक्टिकली वेरी डिफिकल्ट. ओके, तो लीविंग एवरीथिंग टू योर सन इज परफेक्टली फाइन, बट वो क्वेश्चन का आंसर मुझे ट्रस्ट में ही मिलता है. वो क्वेश्चन का आंसर अदरवाइज इट इज डिफिकल्ट.
And especially if the sibling goes abroad also, I think then trust is going to be more helpful than.
अगर सिबलिंग अब्रॉड चला गया और आपका चाइल्ड इंडिया में रहता है, then there are many legal complications. He cannot be a legal guardian then. Okay.
Achha, he cannot be legal guardian.
An NRI cannot be a legal guardian for Indian resident.
Oh,
that's a good
okay. An NRI cannot. See, this is not specific to India. Every country has this law that a legal guardian has to be within that country court jurisdiction. NRI is not in under.
Even if he takes him along, he cannot be appointed as a legal guardian.
If he takes him along, then it will be as per law of that country where he reside. But if the child is in India and you have an NRI, then it's a different situation. NRI cannot be a guardian, and it is also difficult for NRIs to be a sole trustee in your private trust. Okay, so everything rests on resident Indians.
So another point I just want to say and ask you, so that other parents also get help. When Sahil was born, I attended few legal meetings by the Parents Association had organized very early, So there I picked up that no financial assets should be in the name of the child, because abhi to wo aap legal guardian hai, but when he turns adult, the money will get blocked. So we never created an account for him. And it happens also, we created an FD and then they said FD will be given only in his name, only check. So lots of problems came. We never bought any property assets in his name. So what will the trust do when we have nothing in his name? So you think we should transfer some money to him?
No, trust doesn't manage what is in his name.
Solanki sir, we have again lost your voice.
We lost him.
We keep losing him because I think there's some problem with his bandwidth.
Yeah, Bhavna,
yeah,
you please make sure that something is in his name. If you are the local guardian and we took the guardianship, you have to take the guardianship, so you need
that you've taken, ma'am. We are legal guardians.
Now, if you've taken that, you have to have an account in his name. Now,
we have an account under the guardianship only. It's a husband's guardianship. My husband is his guardian, legal guardian. He does not have anything in his solely name. He is the guardian of that account.
No, okay. You have a house to yourself?
Yes.
So after you, it goes to him?
No, he goes to him according to Mr. Solanki, because he is the legal heir. But I'm going to will that the house will go to my other son, because he cannot operate. He cannot transact. He cannot do anything.
No, I won't make that mistake. I won't make that mistake.
Ma'am, once you get a disability certificate, they are not allowed to have anything, not even an account in their name independently. It has to be under
Mr. Solanki ने अभी बताया है कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, जो भी पेरेंट्स का है बराबर
Bhavna ma'am, 1 second. Mr. Joshi, can you unmute yourself and add your knowledge also?
Yes, I thought there's a lot of confusion going on. See, after RPD Act 2016, every child with any disability, including psychosocial disability, has a right to inheritance and is by default granted full legal capacity.
Yeah.
What it means is every child has a right, even though he is 1 month old or 18-year-old, the equal rights up to 18 as a minor, beyond 18 as a full citizen of this country, period. So, Bhavna ji, your son has an equal right in share, 1. 2, I initially did not want to join this session, but later on I joined, though I was earlier hearing on the YouTube also. It's a misnomer or a wrong feeling that your next son or a daughter will or will not look after the child. We have to start respecting all the rights of our children, treat them equal, and accordingly leverage on the existing legal framework. I have a lot to say, because we, again, for the past over 22 years, ever since National Trust Act was passed and later RPD 16 Act is passed, we are still going in circles. Whether the will needs to be registered, not registered, whether the private trust needs to be created or not. Just imagine the volume, the total population of our children in our country, and the number of cases handled by sub-registrar's office every day. It would become impossible for any sub-registrar's office to handle so many cases, even if we start, each one of us starts the process of will and process of registration. That's why, again and again, wherever we are, have to work with the government to make the simplified process of National Trust local level committee, which is essentially headed by the collector.
Sir, may
Actually,
I
Can we
just
have
1
Mr.
second?
Solanki answer that question, Bhavna? Whether, and one more thing, please don't tell me they are not capable of handling it.
Ma'am,
Please.
may I just a minute?
Yeah. Okay,
Ma'am,
okay.
they are capable. Sahil is capable of handling his account, but
Absolutely.
bank does not allow us. And the same thing happens with the property. He can sign, but his signatures are not valid. The
no,
bank
that is
told
wrong.
us very clearly that
No,
we
that is
cannot
wrong.
open the account.
Mr. Solanki,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you tell us? Clear
I'll
that
answer
out.
that.
Yeah.
I'll answer that. So now Reserve Bank of India has very, very clear mandate. It is there on the website that an account can be opened for any disabled dependent under legal guardianship. There is
Yes,
a very,
exactly.
very clear
Under
mandate.
legal guardianship. That is the thing.
Bhavna ma'am, please listen.
Please. No.
Yeah.
I have a order which says that legal guardianship is not mandatory.
It is mandatory, sir.
No. If you want, I can share that later with you. It's not mandatory. It is being misinterpreted, and even RBI circular makes it clear that wherever it is there, it will be asked for. If it is not there, it will not be asked for. It should not be.
I'll answer that, sir. I'll answer that.
And
where you are
last
coming
point.
from.
Last point, and this is because every month I keep handling these cases through the parents, whose bank account is frozen or whatever. You only have to tell the concerned manager that this amounts to discrimination, which is punishable under RPD Act 16, with
I'll answer that.
penalty as well as imprisonment.
I'll
And
answer that, sir.
there's
I'll
a
answer
clear mandate even from Government of India, National Trust, as well as other authorities.
I'll answer that. So now, as a parent, you have to decide whether your child needs a guardian or not for operating a bank account or money making decisions. If he doesn't need that, okay, banks, RBI doesn't force you. But when he is opening an account as an individual, he is opening like you. He will be responsible for everything. You cannot then operate that bank account. You cannot even guide the banker, to do this on this particular account, because he's an individual. He can operate, he can manage the money, he can do everything just like you do. So if you are very clear, your child can do that, you can open an individual account. The moment you decide that my child will need a support, he cannot operate a bank account or he cannot make the decisions of how he is going to utilize the money, then, and you would like to take his decision on his behalf, then you need a bank account under legal guardianship. These are two different situations. Yes, it's not mandatory, but it's not mandatory in a situation where you are opening an individual account on the basis that he can manage money like you can manage things. If that is a situation, perfectly fine. He can open an individual account, then he will do his own KYC, he will sign the checks, he will withdraw the money, he will do everything. Then you cannot take a decision on his behalf, on his bank account or on properties, on anything. But if you want to take a decision on his behalf, then it has to be under guardian.
जी, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि लीगल गार्डियन के बिना भी आप एक बैंक अकाउंट रख सकते हैं.
नहीं.
Let me clarify here because I'm operating both. Mr. Solanki, you're absolutely right. Because when we take the legal guardianship certificate, we have to mark there that what all we are going to look after in our child's life, right? So monetary and financial, we write that everything we will manage as a legal guardian. So when we submit the certificate of his disability to the bank, declaring that he is intellectually disabled, they do not allow us to make a independent account because RBI mandate, even मैंने बैठ के पढ़ा कि mental retardation word use किया हुआ उसमें, those children will, adults, not children, adults will not be allowed to have an independent account without guardianship.
Madam, why can't you open a joint account? I have done that with my son.
They don't allow. They don't allow. But if you do, sir, if you don't declare, no bank asks for it. I have opened in another bank independent account, but then the trouble is when he will not be able to operate or he will be asked to, like you said, he is independent then in that account.
Even in
I've got a joint account with my wife.
Can I share something
and
here?
Both of them operate. It's either or survivor. So joint account is absolutely no issues. My wife does most of the operations, but he can also sign. It finally goes to him.
here we are dealing with two different situations. We are mixing
Yes,
them up.
I
Okay,
have both.
these
Yes.
are two different situations altogether. One is he's as good as you are an individual, doesn't need your support. Then bank can open his account, joint account with you also, an individual account also, only on a consideration that he is as good as you are. But if he is not, he requires a support. He requires a support in decision making. You will make a decision on his behalf. Then under legal guardianship is a much better account. A joint account is as good as an individual account because everything is on his name. He is a primary, bank account holder.
अगर लीगल गार्डियनशिप के अंदर भी अकाउंट खोलना पड़े तो खोल देना चाहिए, क्योंकि ना होने से तो अच्छा है कि उनके नाम का कुछ अकाउंट हो, और नाम एक बड़ी चीज है, चाहे वो हमारे सिबलिंग्स के सामने भी हो. और मैं कहूंगी कि बिना जी
I give you a live example. Last year एक
sir, can I intervene here before that?
जी
example मैं quote कर दूं, makes things very clear. मैं एक example quote कर देता हूँ. Last year एक parents की death हुई थी, father की. उनका will नहीं था, उनकी property, उनका एक special child है, एक mother है, दोनों के नाम पे divide हुई थी. Mother had a legal guardianship certificate. The child, okay, though he can sign, but he cannot manage, he cannot decide. The mother, on the basis of legal guardianship, decided everything about his share of the property. That's where you need a legal guardianship. That's where everything has to be on a legal guardianship. It's very clear on the legal
just
front.
Small clarification, Mr. Solanki.
Ma'am, this is going such a brainstorming session on legal matters.
I know, because I had been in this discussion.
I don't know how small query that mother has. Bhagyashree is raising hand right from.
Ma'am, just a small.
लेकिन इससे क्लियर हो जाने तो ये बहुत important है.
Just a small.
Anil sir also wants to add.
जी भावना जी कहिए.
Sir, after Bhavna ma'am shares, you share.
Just a small another question from Mr. Solanki. Can I?
Yes.
Yes,
Please.
I wanted the clarification, like Rekha ma'am says, he can manage his property, he can sell if it is there in his name. Can he do that? If I buy a land in his name and next in his name without declaring legal guardian,
Okay.
then can he operate? Can he sell?
देखिए, if a disability is disclosed, right? If a disability is disclosed on a paper, he is a disabled dependent. First of all, the impression of the buyer, okay, whether he can make a decision or not. Now, if you are 100% confident that he can make all the decisions like you, okay, because the property in his name, he can sign everything, he can do that, right? So he can go and sign the papers. If he cannot do that and the property in his name, through a legal guardianship certificate, you can take the decision, you can sign the papers. That's what another parent did it. Okay, the property was in the name of the child. Because there was a legal guardianship certificate, she has signed all the papers. They have sold the property, she has signed the papers on the child behalf. Okay.
बिल्कुल सही. जी अनिल सर, आप क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं जल्दी से?
हाँ, नहीं. ये see, as I said and I'll repeat it again, every child, even though he needs some support, has a legal capacity, has a legal authority and right. I'll share an example because we have lived through all these things, and as you know, Devanshi is the first person in many ways to get into full-time regular employment, which means she has signed a valid contract, everyone knowing fully well that she is a person with Down syndrome. One, she is also a member of EPF, ESIC and whatnot, which means that the governmental systems do take some time to realize and implement these things, but everyone has a legal capacity. One. Two, no bank can ever deny, even if you and I need support. For example, if I want to sell my flat, I know nothing about the market, I give a power of attorney to someone. Take the help, I go to the legal advisor, take his help and give him wakalatnama. Similar things hold good. It's time we start believing in the capacity of our children, and all of us need help. Believe me, this serious discussion happened over 2008 till 2016, whether it should be a plenary guardianship or partial guardianship and whatnot. And finally, as I mentioned in the beginning, everyone, including persons with psychosocial disabilities, have full legal capacity,
Yes.
unless unless they are debarred by the court. So no authority in India as per the constitution can deny, even though we may need support to the extent of 90%.
बिल्कुल अनिल सर, मुझे लगता है कि ये लीगल उसको कितना यूज कर पाएंगे या नहीं, लेकिन जो उनको लीगल गार्जियन होगा या जो सिबलिंग या घर वाला जो ट्रस्ट उन्हें देखेगा, अगर उनके नाम पे कुछ है तो बैक ऑफ द माइंड एक चीज रहेगी कि ये आधा हिस्सा इसका भी है। इससे ज्यादा अच्छी ये बात है कि पूरा का पूरा दूसरे बच्चे को दे दें, उनसे कहने कि आप इसे देखो। कहीं ना कहीं दिमाग में एक रहता है, माँ भी जब तक बच्चा रोता नहीं है ना तो उसे दूध नहीं पिलाती है, तो किसी को पूरी अथॉरिटी नहीं देके जाना चाहिए। हमारे बच्चों के नाम कुछ होना चाहिए कि भाई इसका भी है। और बाकी रही बात इसकी कि तुम इसकी हेल्प कर रहे हो, तो भाई तुम इसके भाई या बहन हो, इसमें हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, तुम्हारी जिम्मेदारी बन गई है, आपको करना होगा।
और कोई भी ना कि सिर्फ भाई और बहन, कोई भी अनजान व्यक्ति भी जो वेलविशर है
जी,
वो हमारी हेल्प कर सकता है
जी,
और वो लीगली एक्सेप्टेड है, हैविंग सम लीगल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स इन आवर हैंड। और यही जो कम्युनिकेशन में गैप्स हो रही है, क्योंकि यही डिस्कशन नेशनल ट्रस्ट एक्ट की क्या जरूरत है यहाँ से शुरू हुआ था 24 साल पहले, और थ्रू द ईयर। हाँ, ये अलग बात है कि हम लोग बहुत पैसिव थे, हम लोगों ने इसको इतना ड्यू इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं दिया, इसलिए गवर्नमेंटल मशीनरी में लैक्सिटी है, ये मैं मानता हूँ। लेकिन एज पर द 2016 एक्ट इट इज वेरी वेरी क्लियर। प्लीज रीड द आरपीडी 16 एक्ट, इट मेक्स वेरी क्लियर दैट guardianship can be given only for a purpose. It will not be plenary guardianship.
Agreed अनिल जी। देखिए, मैं यहाँ पे क्या है ना कि पेरेंट्स को डिसाइड करना है कि आपके चाइल्ड को कितना सपोर्ट जरूरत है, आपके चाइल्ड को कितना सपोर्ट जरूरत है, उसको पूरा लीगल राइट है। एज पर लॉ ही हैज फुल लीगल राइट्स टू ओपन अ बैंक अकाउंट, टू मैनेज इट, टू एवरीथिंग। बट एज अ पेरेंट आई हैव टू डिसाइड whether
in the banking system, in the investment system, which will say including a demat account.
Sir, I fully agree with you. मेरा सिर्फ क्वेश्चन ये होता है कि the moment as a parent you think he cannot do it, he cannot take a decision for that, he will need a support. The moment you feel on the financial matters, it's better to do it under legal guardianship rather than leave it on him.
जी, मेरे ख्याल से ये फिर भी पेरेंट्स का अपना डिसीजन रहेगा, लेकिन हमारे जो है एक्सपर्ट्स ने क्लियर कर दिया है। अनिल जी आपका भी और जितेंद्र जी आपका भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
सोलंकी जी, एक चीज मुझे, हाँ सोलंकी जी,
प्लीज गो थ्रू द प्रोविजंस एंड इंटरप्रेट देम।
सोलंकी जी, विल्स के बारे में जो अभी भावना मैडम ने जो बात कही थी, और यूपी में ये मतलब इवन ये है कि यदि किसी साधारण आदमी को भी कोई विल करनी है और उसके पास में कोई भी प्रॉपर्टी है, तो उस विल को कोर्ट मतलब जो तहसील के माध्यम से, जो तहसील की बात है कि तहसील में जाकर के प्रॉपर डॉक्यूमेंट के साथ में करना उचित होता है जी, बजाय उसको कि हम उससे कि आपने अभी बताया जैसे कि सिंपल पेपर पे भी विल कर सकते हैं।
सिंपल पेपर सर, हाँ बताएं।
चाहे वो डाउन सिंड्रोम के बच्चे की विल है या कोई भी विल है, जनरल विल भी यदि हमें करनी है तो कभी भी मेरा ये मानना है कि कभी भी उसको सिंपल पेपर पे नहीं करना चाहिए,
लीगली करना चाहिए। तो ब्रिजेश जी भी जल्दी कराएंगे इसको।
मैं इसका आंसर करता हूँ। आप बिल को रजिस्टर भी कराएंगे तो वो प्लेन पेपर पे ही रजिस्टर होती है, बिल कभी स्टैम्प पेपर पे रजिस्टर
पेपर पे विद द अमाउंट ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी,
स्टैम्प ऑफ द सब रजिस्टर। हाँ, वो तो जी विल का कंटेंट कोई सब रजिस्ट्रार नहीं पढ़ता है, विल का कंटेंट से उनको मैटर नहीं है, क्योंकि विल आपकी डेथ पे एग्जीक्यूट होगी, इसलिए उसमें क्या प्रॉपर्टी है उसका उनसे कोई लेना देना नहीं है। सिंपल प्लेन पेपर पे आप विल लिखते हैं, 2 कॉपी ले जाते हैं सब रजिस्ट्रार के पास, एक पे वो स्टैम्प मार के अपने पास रखते हैं, दूसरे पे स्टैम्प मार के आपको दे देते हैं। कोई स्टैम्प ड्यूटी पेएबल नहीं होती क्योंकि विल स्टैम्प पेपर पे रजिस्टर नहीं होती है। ये सिंपल सा प्रोसीजर है विल का।
शुक्रिया जितेंद्र जी। भाग्यश्री का सवाल ले लेते हैं समीक्षा।
यस मैम, बहुत सारा क्वेश्चन तो मिल गया, भावना जी से, दूसरे पेरेंट्स से बहुत सारा आंसर मिल गया। खाली मुझे इतना पूछना था, अगर हम एक बार हम विल बना लेते हैं उसके बाद हम ट्रस्टी चेंज कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अभी जितना एज का है, बाद में अगर उसका मेरे सिबलिंग्स है जो कोई नहीं है, हम चेंज करना चाहते हैं तो कैन वी चेंज इट?
विल को आप कितनी बार भी चेंज कर सकते हैं, उसमें कोई लीगल कॉम्प्लिकेशन नहीं है। एज पर लॉ जो आपकी लास्ट लिखी हुई विल है वही मानी जाएगी, उससे पहले जो भी विल लिखी हुई है वो सब खारिज हो जाती है। आप विल को 10 बार चेंज कीजिए, 20 बार चेंज कीजिए, कोई लिमिटेशन नहीं।
ट्रस्टी जो है हमारे, जो एक बार कर लिए उसको भी हम चेंज कर सकते हैं।
ट्रस्ट को
ट्रस्टीज
नहीं, ट्रस्ट थोड़ा सा लीगल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में ज्यादा आई वुड से विल के मुकाबले कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो जाता है, इन द सेंस कि एक स्ट्रक्चर आपने क्रिएट कर दिया, उस स्ट्रक्चर को अमेंड करने के लिए स्पेशल प्रोविजन करने होते हैं, आप अमेंडमेंट कर सकते हैं उसका, बट ऐसे फ्रीक्वेंटली विल की तरह चेंज नहीं कर सकते ट्रस्ट।
एक चीज और बता दीजिए सोलंकी जी, एक सवाल मुझे पूछना था।
एक सेकंड सर, वन बाय वन आई विल बी एबल टू आंसर।
I just have a question about the will. Once you change the will, does the amendment also have to be registered? The first time you register the will is fine. After that, when you make subsequent amendments, does that also necessarily have to be registered?
Sir, ideally, because as per Registration Act, I am talking about law. As per Registration Act, registration of will is not mandatory. So even after your unregistered will, if you write another will which is not registered, that is going to be considered as your latest will.
So
okay.
not a separate will, not writing a separate will, amendment or codicil to the existing will.
It's ideally better to get it registered,
Okay.
It's better to get it registered.
Okay, thank you.
सर मुझे वो पूछना था, वो जो आप बोले ट्रस्टी जो होते हैं 5 ट्रस्टी कर सकते हैं, 2 से ज्यादा कर सकते हैं, वो ट्रस्टी भी हम चेंज कर सकते हैं बाद में, वो पूछना था एक्चुअली।
ट्रस्टी देखिए वो प्रोविजन होता है, जब तक आप अलाइव हैं, जब तक आप चेंज करना चाहे कर सकते हैं ट्रस्टी, ठीक है। आपके बाद फिर ट्रस्टी को चेंज करना थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है। आप जब तक अलाइव है तब तक आप चेंज कर सकते हैं, वो पावर आप अपने पास रख सकते हैं।
आनंद जी, आप अपना सवाल पूछ लीजिए।
जितेंद्र जी, आपने अभी कहा कि विल बनाते समय एग्जीक्यूटर का होना जरूरी है
जी,
एडवाइजेबल है। Only last year I wrote my will and got it registered also. But the one who advised me or who was my advocate, he never mentioned about any executor. So there is no mention of the executor in my will.
देखिए सर, क्या होता है कि एग्जीक्यूटर का अपॉइंटमेंट इसलिए इम्पोर्टेंट होता है कि अगर एग्जीक्यूटर नहीं है, then who is the person who is going to look after everything of the will? किसी को तो वो पूरा देखना होगा ना। अब वो कौन देखेगा? Somebody has to be appointed legally. लॉयर्स, जो मेरा एक मानना है, लॉयर्स अगर उनको वो एग्जीक्यूटर के लिए नहीं रखते हैं, बिकॉज उतना इम्पोर्टेंस उनको नजर नहीं आता, बिकॉज दैट्स वेयर दे मेक देयर मनी आल्सो। बट लार्जली इफ यू कीप एग्जीक्यूटर, इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट। अगर एग्जीक्यूटर आप नहीं रखेंगे, फैमिली में अगर डिस्प्यूट हुआ तो फिर कोर्ट के पास जाएगा, कोर्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर अपॉइंट करेगा, और फिर फैमिली में से किसी एक को ढूंढ के या सबको ज्वाइंटली वो एग्जीक्यूटर अपॉइंट कर देगा। तो लीगल में सिर्फ एक ही चीज है विच यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, कि जितना आप अपनी तरफ से कर सकते हैं, वेरी गुड, अदरवाइज एवरीथिंग गोस टू द कोर्ट। तो एग्जीक्यूटर इंपॉर्टेंट है, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अपॉइंट एन एग्जीक्यूटर। जी, अब लॉयर्स का कुछ और व्यू हो सकता है।
जी, आगे कोई सवाल किसी का है तो जल्दी से पूछ लीजिए।
एक सोलंकी जी, कोई जो इंडिविजुअल ट्रस्ट, और आपने ट्रस्ट की अभी बात की है, यदि कोई ट्रस्ट को दान देना चाहे तो वो इनकम टैक्स में एग्जम्प्ट होगा कि नहीं होगा?
नहीं सर, हम यहाँ पे प्राइवेट फैमिली ट्रस्ट की बात कर रहे हैं, इंडिविजुअल फैमिली ट्रस्ट। आप जो दान की बात कर रहे हैं वो चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट होते हैं, तो वो अलग
मतलब नहीं, जैसे कोई डाउन सिंड्रोम फेडरेशन या कोई इस तरह का कोई भी इंस्टीट्यूशन हो, किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन को, जो इंस्टीट्यूशन डाउन सिंड्रोम बच्चों के लिए हेल्प कर रहा हो, तो यदि उसको कोई दान दिया जाए तो वो इनकम टैक्स में एग्जम्प्टेड होगा कि नहीं?
हाँ, वो तो अगर वो इनकम टैक्स में रजिस्टर्ड है तो एग्जम्प्टेड होगा। 80G में रजिस्टर्ड होना चाहिए ना वो इंस्टीट्यूशन।
ठीक है, थैंक यू।
Okay. और कोई सवाल पेरेंट्स का? मेरे ख्याल से समीक्षा बहुत फ्रूटफुल सेशन हमारा रहा है, काफी लंबा। और भावना मैम आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, आप अड़ी रही अपनी बात पे और आपकी वजह से इतने सारे पेरेंट्स की क्वेरी जो है अपने आप ही सॉल्व हो गई।
मिस्टर सोलंकी जी को वहां ले आइए रायपुर में, आई एम श्योर हाफ दी प्रॉब्लम्स विल बी सॉल्व्ड, नॉट हाफ, इन फैक्ट ऑल दी प्रॉब्लम्स विल बी सॉल्व्ड।
एक सेशन आपके साथ रखना ही पड़ेगा सोलंकी जी का। और अनिल सर आपका भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आप आए यूट्यूब से, आप यहाँ आए और आपने बहुत अपनी वैल्यूबल जो है हमें अपनी राय दी। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। समीक्षा।
Yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining, and thank you Solanki sir for always being ready to help us out with such support. So my takeaways are ki yes, create will, make trust, start saving, get into the expansion of your knowledge about legal provisions, get into discussions, get in touch with parents like Anil sir, Bhavna ma'am, who are going to give you the pointers where you can investigate more and know the right thing and the right provisions the government has made for our child. And DSFI and Solanki sir are always there, and yes, Anil sir is always ready to support, with their knowledge and with their experience. We can really forge heart to heart bonds. That is very important. Forge heart to heart bonds, because ultimately you are going to appoint the human lives to look after your child's welfare once you are gone. So that having those heart to heart bonds are very, very important, and I think we are creating it today through this session also. It was really brainstorming, it was really thrilling, it was really arousing a lot of queries and questions. So many were coming in my mind also, but because of the live discussion going on a very particular query, it got hold. So Raipur is sure for Jitendra sir. Brinda, we are going to have a he will not have any free time there for himself.
No, he'll be happy that way, I guess.
Thank you so much.
I am always there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jitendra sir, for your advice and your availability. Yeah.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Parul. Thank you so much.
And happy anniversary, Parul. It happens to be Parul's happy anniversary.
Yeah, today is Parul's and Brijveer sir's anniversary, so you can wish Brijveer sir also. Yeah, come on, poor fellow, he's also there.
Very warm wishes.
Happy anniversary to both of you. Wish you many more.
To both of you.
रायपुर में पार्टी मिलेगा हम सबको।
बिल्कुल मिलेगा मेरी तरफ।
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you, Solanki sir. Look forward to seeing you in Raipur and see you all next session. Thank you. I'm ending the session now. Bye everyone. Bye.